Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. Zhang Yuan'er, who was kneeling, began to kowtow. Bang. 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 These three kowtows left their marks on the ground. Zhang Yuan'er did not hold back, nor did he use his protective energy when he kowtowed. Blood gushed down from his forehead as he pointed at Wuya and said, "The sun and the moon can attest to this old subject's heart. The Zhang family has been loyal for generations. How can we allow a dirty-mouthed brat like you slander us? Your Majesty, please open your eyes to have a good look. You have to stand up for this subject." The series of ostentatious actions and words left Li Yunjing flustered. Upon seeing such a sincere heart and valiance, how could his heart remain unmoved? He was just about to speak when he saw Zhou raise his hand, stopping him. It was just as Wuya had said, Li Yunjing was still too inexperienced. Although he was knowledgeable, he was ignorant of the ways of the world. Just a small trick like this was enough to move his heart. Wuya chuckled before he said, "You didn't answer my question. Are you trying to pressure His Majesty? How dare you?" Zhang Yuan'er stared at Wuya and said in a trembling voice, "This old subject is loyal and devoted. How would I dare to commit such a crime?" Wuya feigned a confused expression and asked, "If that's the case, why did you bring thousands of civilians into the palace and dress yourself in a mourning robe? His Majesty wants to take the 8 great generals down. It's only natural that this old subject is the first to disagree. Isn't His Majesty afraid of hurting the hearts of the people?" Zhang Yuan'er asked. The Zhang family had firmly tied itself to the 8 great generals. After all, no matter how powerful the Grand Dukes were, as long as they did not have military power, the little emperor would not have any real power. Everyone looked at Wuya, curious about how he was going to deal with the fearless old man and resolve this matter. Wuya asked with a smile on his face, "Who told you that His Majesty is going to take down the 8 great generals?" Zhang Yuan'er was not easily intimidated. In fact, he was very shrewd. He scoffed before holding up the imperial edict as he said, "Then, how do you explain this imperial edict?" It was the imperial edict that summoned the civil and military officials and the 8 great generals. Wuya said evenly, "Why does the ruler of a country need to explain himself when he summons his officials?" Zhang Yuan'er felt stifled when he heard Wuya's words. However, he quickly adjusted his attitude before he said, "His Majesty is young and inexperienced. The 8 great generals are constantly guarding the 10 paths and the borders. How can they be recalled at will? Moreover, His Majesty can discuss this matter in the royal court. All the civil and military officials can assist His Majesty as well. If His Majesty, the ruler of a country, acts alone, what need is there for the civil and military officials? His Majesty might as well kill them all." Upon hearing this, all the civil and military officials fell to their knees. The scene was rather spectacular. Wuya continued to say evenly, "The 10 paths in Great Tang have long been dealt with. What I want to know is why His Majesty doesn't even have the right to summon his officials. Lord Zheng, I only have one question for you. Does His Majesty have the right to see his subjects? You only need to answer yes or no." Everyone exchanged a look. Put everything else aside, if the ruler of a country did not even have the right to see his subject, how could he be the ruler of a country? Upon seeing the effects of Wuya's words, Zhang Yuan'er raised his voice and said, "Of course, His Majesty has the right to see his subjects. However, is there anyone who doesn't know that His Majesty intends to kill the 8 great generals? Don't try to confuse the masses with your words." Wuya shook his head and said, "In fact, these words were said to me by His Majesty, I've only repeated them." "You said I'm trying to confuse the masses with my words. Are you trying to say His Majesty is trying to confuse the masses with his words?" You. Zhang Yuan'er was rendered speechless. At this time, Li Yunjing rose to his feet and looked at Zhang Yuan'er before he said, "Lord Zhang, Mr. C is my teacher. Therefore, I asked him to speak on my behalf." The Zhang family is valiant and loyal, but you incited the people and the civil and military officials to force me to submit today. With just this alone, I can sentence you to death. Thud. Zhang Yuan'er fell limply to the ground. His body trembled as he pointed at Wuya and said, "Your Majesty. He harbors ill intentions. I'm willing to die as a show of my loyalty and determination. I'm doing this not for any selfish reasons, but for the sake of the world." The civilians broke out in a commotion as they discussed fervently among themselves. Since time immemorial, people flocked together for the sake of benefits, and there was no one who did not do things for their self-interest. Could an old man who was willing to die to show his determination and loyalty have no selfish interest? Nevertheless, the common people did not care, nor did they understand the twists and turns of the matter. In their eyes, Zhang Yuan'er was a great hero who deserved to be respected. Wuya frowned. Then, he raised his voice and infused some energy into it before he said, "Then, I invite Lord Zhang to die." Following that, Wuya lifted his hand and pointed at a pillar in front of the hall and said, "This sentence is mine." Everyone looked at Wuya in shock. Even Li Yunzheng was stunned. "Teacher." It was only a trivial matter of earning infamy. Wuya had long gotten used to such things. Nevertheless, Wuya's words effectively pushed Zhang Yuan'er to a corner. His eyes were bloodshot and his body trembled in anger. "You." From the beginning until now, Wuya maintained his composure. He said in an even tone, "Didn't you want to prove your determination and loyalty with your death? Using death to threaten His Majesty, is this the so-called loyalty of the Zhang family? Why don't you just die?" No one knew what was wrong with Zhang Yuan'er. Zhang Yuan'er felt his blood boil as he lost his rationality. Like a wild horse, he charged toward the huge pillar in front of the hall. He found it rather strange that no one tried to stop him at all. However, just as he was about to hit the pillar, an expert dove down and stopped him. "Father, don't." Everyone looked at the newcomer. "Zhang Jingyuan?" Wang Yun asked curiously, "Aren't you the general of Jiannan Circuit? When did you return and enter the palace without permission?" Zhang Yuan'er and Zhang Jingyuan. Zhang Yuan'er suddenly realized that his actions had harmed his son. Wuya did not look at Zhang Jingyuan. Instead, he said to Zhang Yuan'er, "Lord Zhang, it's really admirable that you tried to prove your loyalty and determination with death." However, Zhang Jingyuan entered the palace without permission and disguised himself as a palace expert. What are his intentions? Then, he said, "Men, apprehend him." No one moved at all. The situation was still unclear, so none of them dared to make a move recklessly, not even if it was the emperor himself who gave the order. At this moment, Zhou stroked his beard and lazily waved his hand. Zhenghai bowed slightly before he shot out at lightning speed. Upon seeing this, Zhang Jingyuan turned pale with fright. He continued to retreat as he sent out waves of energies with his palms. Bang! Bang! Zhenghai said indifferently, "You're still too inexperienced." Bang! The great dark heaven memorial shot out and landed heavily on Zhang Jingyuan's chest. He spat out mouthfuls of blood as he was sent flying in the air. Zhenghai did not even give Zhang Jingyuan a chance to land. He moved at lightning speed and easily caught Zhang Jingyuan with one hand. "Amazing!" Wang Yun exclaimed in shock and admiration. That man was just a disciple, but he was already so strong. Zhou nodded in satisfaction. He could manifest his 1,000 realms whirling avatar to make everyone, including the common people, submit. However, that would only be disadvantageous to Li Yunzheng. Therefore, if there was a better way to solve this matter, he would not interfere. Apart from that, he was certain Xiaohosheng still had trump cards up his sleeve in the capital. Otherwise, how could Xiaohosheng act rampantly and also control the situation in the capital? Zhenghai dragged Zhang Jingyuan back with him before throwing Zhang Jingyuan to the ground. With this, Zhang Jingyuan spat out another mouthful of blood. At this moment, Zhang Yuan'er's face was twisted with hatred, and his heart was brimming with resentment. There were many reasons that forced him to remain silent, unable to plead for mercy. Si Wuya was not in a hurry to kill Zhang Jiangyuan. Instead, he said, Lord Zhang, your son will, naturally, be dealt with by the Supreme Court. Let's leave this matter aside for now. After a brief pause, he continued to say, if you still plan to prove your loyalty and determination with your death, please continue. This time, no one will stop you. Zhang Yuanren's eyes widened. Si Wuya said without waiting for the old man to reply, oh, don't tell me it was just a trick of injuring oneself to gain sympathy and support? A trick to gain sympathy and support? The commoners exchanged a look. At this moment, Wang Yun chimed in with a clear voice, Lord Zhang, I have to say your trick is really good. However, do you think the commoners are so gullible that they'd be fooled by your act? The Grand Tutor, Gui Zhangping, seized the opportunity and quickly added, the commoners can see for themselves if you're truly loyal. Why did you ask Zhang Jingyuan to infiltrate the palace? After that, Lu Tianing, the Grand Duke of Hu, spoke up as well. Zhang Yuanren, everyone knows your family has a good relationship with the 8 great generals. Over the years, the Zhang family has continued to prosper in the capital. Let me ask you, does the land under the sky not belong to the emperor? 30 years ago, the fertile land in Guanyi Circuit's Longxi used to belong to the common people. How did it become the Zhang family's possession? Lu Tianing's words were like a single pebble that stirred up 1,000 waves. These words caused a commotion among the common people. Li Cheng, the Grand Duke, took the opportunity to say, we bore the infamy while you snatched the fertile land and benefited from it. Apart from that, you even have a spotless reputation. Do you really think you could have your cake and eat it too? If you're dissatisfied, why don't I get the Supreme Court to investigate this matter? In fact, we can have an open investigation so we won't be accused of hiding things from the common people. You. Zhang Yuanren felt his blood boiling. The pressure on his chest grew heavier and heavier as well. Zhang Ting, the Grand Duke of Yun, said, you're working with the royal guards and the 8 great generals to confront His Majesty. Not only are you trying to force His Majesty to submit, but you're trying to revolt as well. As accusations were thrown at him one after another, Zhang Yuanren seemed to have snapped as he rushed toward the huge pillar. Bang! After Zhang Yuanren crashed against the huge pillar, the entire place fell silent. Li Yunzheng trembled inwardly as he looked at the blood that was dripping down the pillar to the ground. Zhang Yuanren's sudden action caused the entire place to fall silent. A crack could be seen on the bloodied huge pillar. Blood continued to drip down the pillar to the ground. Thud. Zhang Yuanren, whose head was cracked open, fell to the ground with his eyes wide open. When he fell on the ground, it looked as though he was glaring at the heavens. The commoners broke out in an uproar. Lord Zhang! Lord Zhang! A row of dozens or so royal guards standing in front of the commoners fell to their knees loudly as they stared at Zhang Yuanren's lifeless body in shock. The loud and dissonant noises from their long halberds hitting the ground rang in the air. All the civil and military officials wore a shocked expression on their faces. Zhang Yuanren had really proved his determination and loyalty with his death. Father! Zhang Jingyuan cried out heart-wrenchingly. Zhenghai pressed his hand down, subduing Zhang Jingyuan. The 4 Grand Dukes were similarly shocked. They really did not expect Zhang Yuanren would kill himself to prove his loyalty and determination. How were they going to appease the commoners now? Li Yunzheng was nervous. How could it be easy to be a ruler of a country? His teacher had said he had weaknesses a ruler should not have. What should he do now? Should he continue down this path and start a massacre? Seeing that the situation was getting out of control and the public opinion was one-sided, Si Wuya casually waved his hand. Wang Yun hurriedly brought out a stack of documents and presented it with both hands. Si Wuya used his primal qi and said in a clear voice, in the year 306 of Shenwu, Zhang Yuanren occupied 3,000 acres of fertile land in Longxi, causing poverty and starvation among the people. This is the first evidence. Post it up. It was as though they had long prepared for this. Someone walked out from the back and posted it on the board. Si Wuya continued to say, in the year 310 of Shenwu, there was an earthquake in Jiannan Circuit's Shu district. Zhang Yanchen, Zhang Yuan'er's second son, embezzled hundreds of thousands of gold from the funds for disaster relief. Posted up. In the year 320 of Shenwu, Zhang Bo led 30,000 men to the north and was defeated. In order to save his own life, he abandoned the border and fled south. This allowed 100,000 men from the foreign tribes to cross Wei River and Great Tang. Posted up. This series of actions stunned Li Yunzheng. When were all these things prepared? How did his teacher do it? The civil and military officials were stunned as well. Meanwhile, Zhou nodded his head in satisfaction. If he were to deal with the matter, he would have just killed all of them with a palm strike. Everyone would, naturally, submit, but they would lose the hearts of the people. Moreover, those who were forced to submit might even stab them in the back. Wuya's move did not require him to personally kill the enemy. However, those who needed to be killed still died. Li Yunzheng really felt like applauding his teacher at this moment. However, taking into account his image as the ruler of the country, he suppressed his desire to applaud his teacher. As it turned out, his teacher was not having a hard time dealing with Zhang Yuan'er at all. His teacher had deliberately provoked Zhang Yuan'er and slowly lured Zhang Yuan'er to his death. His teacher waited until Zhang Yuan'er died before listing out Zhang Yuan'er's crimes one after another. With this, Zhang Yuan'er did not prove his loyalty or determination with death. Instead, it looked as though Zhang Yuan'er had committed suicide out of guilt. How wonderful! As expected of his teacher. After Wuya listed out Zhang Yuan'er and the Zhang family's crimes, he continued to say in a clear voice, Zhang Yuan'er knew that he had committed a grave sin, so he committed suicide out of fear in front of the emperor. The commoners looked at the evidence that was posted up on the board. All of a sudden, someone in the sea of people cursed, so he's a bastard thief? Another person joined in and began to curse as well. Is this kind of person worthy of our support? He's too despicable. I really want to use my dragon song to stab him. A man asked in confusion, how did you bring the sword into the palace? That's right, why do I have a sword? How terrifying. Was he trying to frame us? Don't tell me he wanted to borrow His Majesty's hand to silence us? The commoners took a few steps back one after another. Then, all of them fell to their knees with a thud and began to beg for mercy. Wuya nodded before he turned to look at Li Yunzheng meaningfully. Li Yunzheng rose to his feet and spread his arms as he said, rise. You're my people, my flesh and blood. Isn't it like hurting myself if I hurt you? Rise. Thank you, Your Majesty. Your Majesty is merciful. Someone in the crowd shouted. With this, the other commoners began to join in as well. Zhou frowned slightly. Isn't this guy overdoing it? At this moment, someone dove from the sky above the political announcement hall. The sky lit up and a buzzing noise rang in the air. Wuya said, the civil and military officials are not allowed to retreat. Stay and protect the commoners. How preposterous. The civil and military officials ran faster than everyone else and retreated behind the royal guards as soon as that person flew over. These bastards, they're indeed wicked people. It's His Majesty who loves the common folks. The commoners ran towards the steps of the hall. The situation was clear to Li Yunzheng. He said to Wuya, thank you, teacher. Wuya nodded and smiled. Li Yunzheng thought the person would fly to Wuya and let himself be captured. At that time, today's matter would be over. However, he did not expect that person to fly past Wuya and make his way toward him instead. Useless Emperor, I'm going to take your life. Swoosh. The assassin flew horizontally as an energy sword with black runes around it shot toward Li Yunzheng. Wuya frowned. No matter how intelligent one was, there would always be things that one could not predict. He had long expected for something to go wrong somewhere, hence, he had invited his master over. As expected, something had gone wrong. Fortunately, this was all within his prediction. Li Yunzheng's eyes widened. It felt as though his heart was in his throat at this moment. The energy sword was about to pierce Li Yunjing's glabella when Lu Zhou's wizened figure flashed and appeared in front of Li Yunjing. He raised his hand indifferently and caught the black energy sword between his index and middle finger that shone with a faint blue light. All he needed was little supreme mystic power to catch the sword. In fact, there was no need for him to use the supreme mystic power. With the power from the Thousand Realms whirling alone, he could easily deal with the black energy sword. However, how could he let go of such a good opportunity to test the supreme mystic power? At this moment, it was as though everything and everyone had frozen over. On the left, right, front, and back, the palace experts and the royal guards could sense the assassin's dangerous aura. The assassin glared at Lu Zhou and said in a deep voice, "Get out of my way." Then, he tried to twist the energy sword to force Lu Zhou away with the offensive force of the black runes. Alas, Lu Zhou's fingers and hand were not shaken at all. Lu Zhou said indifferently, "How dare a mere 9-leaf cultivator act so impudently?" Lu Zhou exerted a little pressure with his fingers. The energy sword covered with black runes broke immediately. Following that, Lu Zhou struck with his palm. However, he did not use the supreme mystic power. Bang! A huge great Vajra will palm seal shot out and hit the assassin's chest. He felt as though his internal organs had ruptured and his bones had shattered from the force of the palm seal. Lu Zhou pointed with 2 fingers before the top of the steps was filled with countless energy swords. Swoosh! 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 They shot toward the assassin and pierced his body. Thud! Just like that, the assassin fell to the ground. When Wang Yun saw the assassin's face, he cried out in surprise. Zhang Yong. At this moment, a young man holding a sword in the crowd cried out, "Goodness, my eyes have been opened today. These people are really shameless." At this point, unless they were not sound of mind, how could the common people not understand what was going on? It's Zhang Yong. Zhang Yong wants to assassinate the emperor? Is it really Zhang Yong? Zhang Yang wants to assassinate the emperor? At this moment, Li Yunjing recalled Si Wuya's words. As a ruler, one should not be indecisive. Hence, he shouted, "Pass down my decree. Capture all the members of the Zhang family." "Yes, your majesty." Lu Tianing, the Grand Duke of Hu, walked down the steps and pointed at the royal guards nearby. "Why are you standing there? Follow me?" The royal guards did not move. This was within Si Wuya's expectations as well. At this moment, Lu Zhou's ears twitched slightly. The supreme mystic power converged around his ears, and in just an instant, his range of hearing covered the entire area around the political announcement hall. A few miles east of the political announcement hall, in the Supreme Heaven Palace near the entrance of the royal palace, a person sat on a chair, leisurely eating fruits as he said, "I didn't expect the little emperor to be so capable. Forget it. I've lost today's game of chess. I'll continue playing another day." "Lord Xiaohou, what about the royal guards? Leave a number of them for the little emperor to order around. The royal guards are still my people. He has the support of 1,000 realms whirling expert, so it's wise to engage in a direct fight today. I didn't expect them to not start a massacre. Let's go." Just as they were about to leave. Buzz. A 450-foot Thousand Realms whirling avatar appeared in the sky above the political announcement hall. The huge astrolabe unique to the Thousand Realms whirling avatars made everyone present feel unable to breathe. The thousands of commoners, the royal guards, the civil and military officials, and the members of the Zhang family looked up at the Thousand Realms whirling avatar in a daze. This is Thousand Realms whirling. So Yu Qinshu was really killed by a Thousand Realms whirling expert? Some people were puzzled by Lu Zhou's sudden move. He had already won the game of chess. Why did he manifest his Thousand Realms whirling avatar? To show off? The atmosphere was stifling and heavy, causing everyone to feel suffocated. The entire outside of the political announcement hall was cast with the light from the lotus. In the crowd, Jiang Aijian said again, "Senior Lu, you're the manifestation of divine power." The commoners wore frightened expressions on their faces. Upon seeing this, Wuya rolled his eyes and said in a clear voice, "Don't worry. If he wanted to kill all of you, he would have killed all of you long ago. Why would he wait until now?" Indeed. Was there a need for such an expert to wait before making a move? If he wanted to kill them, they would have died a long time back. At this moment, Lu Zhou's voice rang clearly in the air. "There's an assassin. I'll be right back." Everyone was relieved. As expected, he was not targeting the common people. The common people were not cultivators, so they did not care if the lotus was golden or red. All of them kneeled on the ground reverently. Ding. Worshipped by 3,680 people. Reward, 3,680 merit points. Li Yunzheng said, "Everyone, don't worry. I will never point my knife at innocent people." Buzz. The sound of energy resonating rang in the air. In just a blink of an eye, the Thousand Realms whirling avatar appeared in front of the Supreme Heaven Palace, looking down at a dazed Xiahou Shang. Lu Zhou said indifferently, "Xiahou Shang. Yu, how did you know I'm here?" The most dangerous place was the safest place, after all. Xiahou Shang had been hiding in the Supreme Heaven Palace all this time. "Surrender now."